April 11th. Scotty, you want to do a little report, or you all set? Or-
Sure, no, I can do it.
Okay. What's happened?
So, since the last meeting, the Phase 2 skater project, an upgrade at Delaney, has been continuing, about one-third complete right now. Most that's fabrication in their shop, programming, testing, and not actually installing on site yet. That's to come. The new air compressor at the Willis plant was installed. It's been functioning perfectly. That's one of the capital projects we had from last fall, and it eliminates a single point of failure for that plant. We only had one compressor before, now we have two for redundancy. The Leonard Road Sewer Station rehabilitation has begun as of late last week. Water management policy. You'll do a water management permit. It's gonna take effect May 1st, September 30th. That's in our Water Management Act permit for those dates. I have the fly here, if anybody wants a copy of it. It's basically similar to the ones they've done in past years, a little bit of differences here and there. No major leaks or breaks recently, and we're continuing to do our routine tasks.
Good, excellent.
Question?
Patrick?
Scott, how much can we draw now per person? You know, is it still at 65?
Yeah, we want to remain at 65 or under, and we have for the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
3 years.
Okay, but we still have that
It's in
number.
our permit, yeah.
We're gonna have how many new customers online when they finish these buildings that they're starting to finish now? Do we have a projection
I
for
don't
that?
have a projected number.
Okay. I'm just curious, is the state going to increase our withdrawal permit? Do you know that answer?
Well, it's still a per capita per day,
It is
And
per
we-
capita?
yeah.
How
So
they-
if you have more connections and more people, you're gonna have more capita.
Okay,
Per
how do
capita.
they figure in the non-people, like companies and,
Is it, you're talking about commercial and businesses?
yeah,
I'm not sure, Patrick.
Reducing this number by
all right,
54,687.
thank you.
No, excuse me.
Okay,
We're reducing this number by 50,683. That's the increase in the indirect
Mr.
costs.
Johnson, would you like to
Sure.
say a few?
Sure. So tonight you have 3 items on your agenda. I don't know if you all had a chance to review the memo that I provided. It's pretty long, and I'm sorry it's so long. I tried to cover a lot of topics. So I'll just kind of review it, and then, John, if you want to kind of start at the beginning and we can go through everything. So the FY '23 sewer and water budgets, I've presented you, Mary's giving you the breakdown of the budgets that were requested earlier, a few months ago. We've also have the revenue to date for year '22. We've also have the expenditures to date for FY '22. I've given you another scenario based on my conversation with the chairman last week. The chair, I believe, is looking for a 00514. He asked me to run that scenario. So what I did is I provided that scenario for you, and I also provided a drafted motion. As you know, we're less than a month from town meeting. We need some directive as to what to do with the main motion set to be considered on town meeting for both the sewer and the water. So what you have is a drafted motion for sewer and water. On the sewer side, I've drafted a motion at 7.5%. That's taking into consideration what Commissioner Fasanello mentioned, which is the 5% MWRA increase and the 2.5%, which I believe he'd like to see each year. So that's where we are with that. As far as the ARPA funds, I know the commissioners have expressed an interest in the ARPA funds. To date, Walpole is set to receive $7,385,608 as part of the American Rescue and Recovery Act. $4.7 million is coming directly from Norfolk County. We have to apply each time we submit a request. And just over 2.67 is being sent directly to the town of Walpole. We received 50% last June. We're set to receive another 50% this June. So as far as who is in charge of those funds, it falls under the select board. It's considered a grant as far as Mass General laws are concerned. So basically, if someone has a request or wants to advocate for a specific project, they are to come to the board. The board can then decide what to do. The chairman of the select boards advised me he'd like to have a work session or a general meeting with, invite this commission, a few residents who've expressed an interest. I'm suggesting to the board that we just open it up to town officials and residents who may want to come. Maybe we have it at the senior center, at the police station, somewhere where we have a bigger room, and people can kind of advocate for their project that they'd like to see funded with the remaining $5.2 million. Obviously, I understand the sewer and water commissioners may have a considerable amount of projects. I've included your 5-year plan on there, and I know Rick and Scott met today to talk about some plans that they would suggest, or some projects that they would suggest to you be a priority. Depending on what the Sewer and Water Commission do as far as the funding for the budget for FY23, if you do decide to go with the recommendation of using the about 200 or so thousand for the Morningside Drive project, I would ask that your board make that one of the top priorities. Obviously, it was funded through town meeting, but if we need to rescind it to allow to balance the budget, I think it should rise to the top. It's gone through the vetting process already, and that's where we are with that one. So as far as the other funds that have come in, there's another fund called CARES, and Jody can chime in if anyone has any specific questions, but that was something that we received basically in the beginning and middle of the pandemic. A lot of it went to computers, infrastructure for the school department and town side. We were able to address a lot of the protective equipment and some of the renovations that you've seen here around Town Hall that just provides more social distancing. Jody, am I missing anything really big with that one? Okay, and that was really limited as far as what the town could and could not do. It's an extensive process that Jody had to go through. Each project had to be approved or disapproved by her contact. Was it at the federal level, Jody, or?
At 2 different levels.
Okay, so she had to go through both this federal and state contact there. And it was pretty exhaustive. A lot of projects were denied. We submitted, and some were granted to us. And she's doing her final reporting on that right now. I've also provided the commissioners with an extensive update as to where we are with each of the approved capital projects and their funding source here, going back to 15. Most of the stuff from 15 and 16 are pretty much have a zero balance in it. And then one other item that came up at the last meeting was the audit and the concern over indirect costs. Rick and I have talked. We were able to secure a firm. What's the name of that firm again? The Pioneer Group. They're willing to work with us to review all of our indirect costs. It's last time we reviewed it was in 2017. So it's coming up to 5.5 years, and it's about time. I agree with the commissioners. Obviously, we'll report back, and we'll also request the Pioneer Group come in similar to what we did with the Abrams Group and present their findings to you. You can ask them any questions you may have. And I know I went through that pretty quickly, but included in your packet, as mentioned, is the year-to-date budget report for sewer and water. A few suggested motions that were drafted dating back to April 7th as far as the budgets are concerned. Chairman explains scenarios that he asked me to run towards the end of last week. The billing cycle information that was provided to me back on March 17th. I actually have some good news to report on that. Mary has been working really hard on reducing some of that. I know that was some concern for the commissioners. She's worked her magic, and we're fortunate to have her. And I can share this was just given to me today. In some incidences, we've got it down to about 25, 26 days between reading and the billing. And I think Scott and her could probably provide some more details on that if the commissioners would like some more information. I've also included a draft of the financial policies. I'm not looking for the commission to talk about this tonight, but just a reminder that I did draft it if you're interested in pursuing it. And then one presentation from Mass Municipal Association, which was given to me on March 18th, just kind of going over the ins and outs of the the ARPA funds and what can and cannot be used for that, what type of projects. We can use it on revenue replacement, sewer and water infrastructure, management information infrastructure, and a few other items. So I know it's a lot, but again, if you have a chance, look through it. And then just another breakdown of the indirect cost if you have any specific questions. So with that, Chairman.
All right, Patrick?
Yeah, just a few questions. You're talking about the CARES Act. How much money, first of all, how much money do we get from the CARES Act?
2.2 million.
Okay.
How much the water and sewer enterprise fund will get?
Water and sewer enterprise did not get any of it. Some of it did go towards water and sewer. Jody, do you mind if
There
I?
were funds, it encompassed everybody, town, school, water and sewer enterprises, so everybody was involved in that.
So that should reduce the, some of the indirect cost? If the town got some fund for the whole town in the general fund, the indirect cost should be reduced for the water and sewer. The remote work, the unemployment and other stuff, which is in the indirect cost. I calculated around $100,000 should come to water enterprise fund for the indirect cost, what we paid before.
I will be sure to ask the Pioneer Group to review that. I don't have that information at this time.
Okay.
For the CARES, some money went to water and sewer. Is it because of PPI equipment, masks and whatever, as opposed to?
Jody's my expert.
Yeah, so it was covering PPE, some other supplies. It kind of switched in between the middle of everything. They changed the rules on us, so it was really confusing for a while. But cleaning, PPE, sick salaries when people were out sick, to an extent.
Due to COVID.
Right.
So the COVID-related things, as
Yes.
opposed to spending we wanted to buy, or pipes in a new street or something like that.
No,
It was
that
all
one-
related to COVID.
Correct.
Okay.
For remote working and other stuff also, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
There was $100,000 for remote work.
I can't tell you off the top of
Okay.
my head how much was
So-
remote work, but there was a lot of computers that were bought for, departments to work at home. Schools had to buy a lot of equipment, so a lot of that, schools had other funding, but they also had this CARES funding as well.
That's correct.
So a lot of that went through that fund.
So what my question was that if the general fund received funding for unemployment, remote work, and et cetera, the indirect costs to the water and sewer fund should be reduced by that same percentage which we charge back to the water and sewer fund.
So what happened was, any of the charges that were incurred that were COVID-related, so anything that was not budgeted for, is what CARES was covering, amongst, all their other guidelines. So what I'm trying to say is that if there was expenses incurred in the water and sewer department, those expenses were charged back to the general fund and then reimbursed by CARES. So you did not incur expenses on any of those funds.
And there was indirect cost, isn't it, from last 2 years of COVID? There was indirect cost of let's say 1.7 million per year charged to the water and sewer for the common services to the general fund.
So the indirect cost
Yes.
did not include any COVID-related expenses.
No, it includes the, let's say, 20% of town admin budget. It includes 15% of DPW budget. It includes, I think,
Right.
finance department 15-20% budget, isn't it?
So I'm not sure of your question, I
So
guess.
indirect cost to water and sewer department contains items which are indirect to the town admin, finance, DPW, IT.
So the
and other-
indirect costs
yes.
are costs associated with running the administrative, the overhead costs. But if you're talking in terms of CARES, I'm not quite following you, because the 1.7 does not include any expenses relative to COVID.
So if I maybe make sure I understand it, the indirect costs, if there was no COVID, that's what it would cost to provide services to water. Because of COVID, all sorts of departments, including sewer water, had extra expenses, and that's where the CARES money is going to. So
Right.
it wouldn't impact the indirect costs, because that's focused on just normal conditions, and yet, and the CARES is handling the as a result of the COVID.
Yes, thank you.
So the indirect cost to water and sewer is a static cost. It doesn't matter how much refund they get for their insurance or, legal or other support or IT budget or something.
It wasn't
You think that-
necessarily a refund. I just pulled up the chart I shared with Commissioner Fasenelli, so I'll give you an example. So, first item on the list was accelerated telework capacity, which included infrastructure subscriptions for meeting services and hardware and laptops. That came to about $130,000. Next item on there was board staffing needs to the extent not addressed through public funding, $1,000. She went down budgeted, I don't mind sharing this with you.
That's fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
So she had to go through, like, COVID testing. What do we spend on COVID testing? It looks like $298. Staff compliance for associate reporting with this funding, $6,200. So we had to go through and break that down. It wasn't wasn't part of the indirect cost. If we took it out of miscellaneous or electricity for sewer and water, it was reimbursed to whatever line that was taken out of. Jody, is that correct? Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, yes, so, we got 2.2 million. How much and maybe the financial people might answer this. How much actually went to sewer and water?
It didn't actually go to sewer and water.
No,
We
I know,
reviewed your expenses.
but
I don't have that number.
I
right-
understood what you said, but there's a number.
Yeah, I'd
What
have
is
to
that
get-
number?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, I need to know that number, please, okay? And secondly, when you look at other, on the last item, on the CARES sheet here, okay, you see it says breakdown in itemized list tab. I couldn't find that. Where's that?
Oh, that's a separate list.
We can provide that to you.
Oh, okay, I needed that. Would you please send that to me? Okay.
I will.
Here's, just to, are we still on CARES, or can we switch over to ARPA for a second? Just for 1 second to put this out. And Dr. Hassanjak gave me this idea. The budget is 70% schools and 30% municipal, is that correct?
Yeah, 66-34, yeah. That's usually our general split.
And we're 35 or so percent of the municipal budget. Is that correct? Maybe not 35, but 33 or 30
Yeah, if
something.
overall
About a
municipal
third.
budget, I'll take your word for it. but
About a
it's
third, okay.
I think between the two, it's, what, $11-12 million between sewer and water? Does that sound about right? Yeah.
Okay, so we're a third of the municipal budget. Can we expect a third of the ARPA funds?
Question for the select board, and I'm not passing the buck. Ultimately, I don't mind advocating for any project that you guys would say,
But these
go
are-
in and ask for this list, so it's ultimately, it's up to them.
These are things you need to know before you set the rates. I'm just saying, so when can we get that information? We know we need $1 million for the new membrane, at least, okay? We have some other things also that we could use. That'll help us with the rate structure. Because right now, we build a rate structure, and we do get this money, it throws everything off. So if we're not getting any money at all, which I hope that isn't true, then that's something we have to deal with, right?
The ARPA funds cannot be used for operations, but I think what you may be saying, Patrick, is that you would like to use it on capital projects, correct?
Well, that's what it is. Well, obviously, it's $1 million for the membranes.
Yes.
I mean,
So as part of our capital program, years ago, we transitioned over to the fall. So I think, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, for your planning, you're looking to say, okay, what items can we take off of our capital list?
that's exactly right. And how much do we need in that fund? That's
As
the
far
fourth
as
thing.
setting the budget itself for the operating costs,
But, okay, but that reflects on how much money we can use from the reserve fund.
from the retained earnings,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. That's down the line, we'd have to appeal to the selectmen for that.
Yeah, we've talked about sometime after in June or May or June at some point.
Okay, but we gotta go ahead with this, budgets now.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we're doing it ahead of the capital budget process is so we can plan with Ed Fosberg and Patrick as we start that process in July. So we'll know what projects the board would like to see funded through. I have a general idea. I don't know if they'll exactly vote on it.
I think, Pat, we have to figure out what we wanna ask for, and then go to the selectmen and ask for it.
Well, we'll need our,
Count on nothing, hope for the best.
we'll need our experts. Mr. Director, we'll need our experts to help us formulate that in a logical and coherent manner.
Absolutely.
You up to that?
I'm ready. Okay, for the time being, I'd like to give Mr. Johnson some directive on what we want to do with this budget.
Well, John, that's the thing. Well, I think we're all agreed that we probably shouldn't have any increase on tiers 1 and 2.
Right.
Now, that's only, I think it's 3,900 cubic feet. So once you go over that amount, you're into tier 4. So I think we should concentrate probably on tier 3. We should concentrate on tier 3 to see what we can do to
Mr. Chairman, I still
make
have a
this as
question on
painless
the
as possible.
budget. Before we discuss rate and all, I still have questions on budget. Yes, so the first question is the billing cycle, which is given in this memo. Can you tell Mary when was the last bill issued for the town resident?
When was the last?
Bill issued to the town resident.
Let's see. So we had,
Just brought one down on Friday.
yeah, I have,
That one is a septic and other. That's
looking here. I don't have that on my spreadsheet.
You brought two down.
So it's, okay.
There's a billing on Friday.
Yes, so it was last Friday.
Four, yeah,
Yes, I
four,
read 3 cycles down on Tuesday
Tuesday.
with a Friday,
Yeah.
April 8th.
four,
bill.
yeah, April 8 was a cycle 20 and cycle 24, which is preserve and septic hauler.
Yeah,
The resident bill was last done on 3/18.
so, so we have cycles 1, 2, and 3 are due to go out on April 22nd.
Just wait. So the last bill went on 3/18,
Okay.
March 18, for a meter read date of 2/11, February 11th. Okay, so what we are saying here is, after February 11th, we have not billed any of the town people for any water and sewer bill. And today is April 11th. 2 months. We have not billed any of the resident, any water and sewer bill. Okay, the next bill which will go out for the resident is 4/26. And that is for cycle 1, and there are hardly 600 resident there. And that will contain bill up to 3/22. Okay, so as of now, as of today's date, we are 2 months behind in the billing overall. Okay? Whatever your number you're saying, 35, that's specific to the billing group. That does not apply to the whole town. Okay, that's one thing. The second part is the calculation of the lag days are wrong. Okay? First of all, it should be chronological from the user start date, end date, bill date, plus 30 days is the bill due date. And then you should be able to do the calculations. Okay,
I have it calculated not by when the payment comes in. I have it.
30 days, we give 30 days, isn't it?
Yes.
30 days we give, isn't it? That's true. But it's chronologically, it's not correct here. So 30 days in a billing group, which is just 600 customer. Okay, and then that is spread out for next 3 months. The last bill for March will be going on somewhere in May or June. Oh, it's here. on 125, yeah, 125 is 8th June, you'll be sending the bill. So overall, the town is almost
Well,
3 months.
This can be reworked, we can, I mean, this is just an,
Okay, yeah, it need rework, so you don't say any time that we are behind 30 days, because that is specific to a billing group. That is not specific to the town. For the town, we are running 3 months behind on the billing.
We're supposed to be talking about the budget, not how long it takes to bill people.
It is about budget. Was in the budget document. I'm not.
No, you're changing it around, now you're going
No, no,
about,
no. Now I'm
after
coming to the
slow
budget.
billing.
This was part of the budget. This was sent with the part of the budget. Okay, now, the YTD budget, which is actual given here, has to write that assumption, that they are giving a 9 months of revenue, which is 83% of the budget. And it does not contain any revenue from
This is-
February, March, and April.
Here's your figure. This is your budget.
Plain and simple. That's what I'm coming to.
Reduced by your increase in your indirect costs.
It does not contain any bill. And at the 9 months, we are already at 83% for water, and for sewer, we are already at 78% of the budget,
No, this is the revenue, it's actually.
without billing for last 2 months.
It's carried over here. Efficiency of your budget. So the revenues is this. If you take 1%.
Each budget item should have the last billing date and last meter read date. I think it's a disclaimer should be there, this number, even a computer cannot work on it. No one can guess anything here.
Okay. Well, I offered something to Mr. Johnson with what my desires were. I don't know how the rest of yous feel.
So do you want me to quickly run through a couple of what we've talked about? So,
Yeah, I think you
Well,
probably
hold
should.
on, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I think,
I wanna cover
John,
this.
you and Patrick kind of had your stuff last time. Bill Abbott and I endorsed a hybrid so-called solution, which is one of your alternative types. And I passed this out just so people could look. The notion of this is that even if we're not setting rates, is to provide the guidance, to give the comfort to the FinCom administration that there's gonna be enough revenues to cover the future budget and to allow for enough retained earnings to sufficiently support capital projects. If you would look at what I passed out, this was for the water. The simple overview of this is that in deference to 2 or 3 of the commission members who want a lower rate of increase for tier 1 and 2, we propose tier 1 is 1% and tier 2 is 2.5%. All the other categories are 5%. And the rationale for that is that anybody who buys anything today, if you go to the supermarket, whatever, you're not gonna see 0. Everything's gone up. Minimally 1%. So it's unrealistic to suggest that we could retain zeros in this column. The second point is, on the conservative side, is that many people think the government needs to live within its means and shouldn't be increasing. We used to have Proposition 2.5, today it seems to be 5% as a metric for increased expenses in municipal government. So we tried to use that as ceiling. I'm diametrically opposed to anything in the teens as far as rate increases. I think that puts this town in the same vector that we see on the national scene, which is a disaster. And so, but at any rate, within that context, we can get to Jim Johnson's budget. And the way we do that is, we're not supporting in the budget itself
the indirect increment to the town, which is 50,683.
In other words, no increase, use the prior years.
Yeah, it's just a
Okay,
flat.
yeah.
The town is not getting an increase in its indirect cost in the water. And part of the rationale goes along with Patrick and Pardeep's idea that we probably should have gotten some piece of the 2.2 million or whatever it was, CARES and COVID funds. Some of that should have trickled into a relief for sewer and water, since we're 1/3 of the municipal budget. Whether you like that or not, there's also the rationale that one member is that until we have more of a review, more of an audit type of review, to know whether we should be paying more or the same or less, that would be a one-term philosophy of having that flat. And that gets us to a 54,600, if you look at the bottom of the page, $687 deficit on a $6.6 million budget. And above, if you look at the receivables, you'll notice that we're calculating that we're only gonna collect 94% of what we build. So if we take just 1% and say we're gonna collect 95 point whatever percent, that gives us another 54,000, and we actually, 53,000, which, 723, which actually gets us within $900 of Jim's budget without much pain. And to the folks from FinCom who are here, not many of them are here, and I'm sorry about that if they're, for any particular reason, but we should be, FinCom should be cognizant that we do collect all that money. We collect all that money, it's another 296,000 to the good. And also, we have historically underestimated revenues. We've underestimated revenues here, $675,000. So there's a potential of almost $1 million, 971, additional revenue towards the capital account or retained earnings. So, Bill and I feel that that is a reasonable solution to that particular budget. As long as we're doing that in that way, I mean, I'd just like to finish with the sewer, which is,
Before we go into the sewer, I agree with you. If you level fund the indirect, that saves about 51,000. Increasing the collection rate by 1%,
Right.
that gets another. And the third one is going with the $2.50 per bill charge. Those three items
sorry, I
are,
left that out, Bill, thank you.
um,
It was actually $3.
those three items that are the key to
Exactly.
doing that in tier 1 and 2 at 1% and 2.5%. If there is not possible for the indirect, and I don't know how one decides that,
Well, we decided,
well,
we have to approve the budget of the administration.
well, there may be others, but the other way, if there is a shortfall because of that, on the tier 3 and 4, by increasing those from the 5% to, say, 7 and 10%, you'll bring in money that could offset if some of these other items, the three items that are key to your presentation there, John, if one of them falls out or whatever, raising the 3 and 4 tiers is a way to, on the residential, is a way to sort of recoup that.
It's a way, and that's where you and I disagree on that. I think
Yes.
that we have to hold a line on percentage of increase. If you do 1% of double digits of 14 or 18%, all down the line, they're always gonna point to the previous increase in the teens, and I just don't think that's representing the taxpayer.
No, I understand.
It's not livable, it's not, people, you
I
saw.
just wanted to
Yeah.
identify those three components of the key, and I think you agree, those are the three items.
Right.
And all I'm saying is, if there is a problem, and we discussed this when we met, that I was looking to say, all right, if one of these things falls out, that I was looking, okay, where can we get the money to replace if one of the three items falls out?
Well,
And that's what I'm saying is, one of the place to look would be the tier 3 and 4 rates, which rather than the 5%, and that's,
well, yeah, thank you.
yes.
I'm not doing any goodwill hunting on that, though, because
Yep.
basically, the town, and, you know, smart, we're, contrary to what one of the ladies the other day said, we're not, you're part of the government and you're on our team or something. Actually, no, we're in negotiation with the town, and we're representing the taxpayer and the ratepayer for the water. The town is representing their interest in getting as much revenue as they can for the proposals and their projects of their budget. And there is a tension there, and it's not that we have to accommodate them and go looking. I mean, really what the town does is they underestimate revenues, and they say they're not collecting all the money. And they leave a discrepancy of $800,000 to their benefit. And that goes in the budget. It's in the town's budget, but the point is, the money's there. There's enough extra for the uncollected $290,000 and for the underestimated revenues to cover anything like that, that we don't have to go back to the tax or the ratepayer and charge them more. That's my view anyway on that one. So if I could just, and then I'll shut up, I just, on the sewer, I thought these were resolutions that would probably keep parties comfortable going forward with town meeting and articles at town meeting. Sewer is very straightforward. If you look at the second sheet, which is a horizontal printout, we raised the rate from 2.5 to 3.6 to get more revenue. And we, down below, we include the charges for being part of the system, user fee of $3 per quarter, $12 for the year. That's 4 cups of coffee. And we also have the retained earnings, 14,800, excuse me, the indirect costs, 14,800 being subtracted. So by adding in the other revenues, by adding in the per customer annual fee of $12 and reducing the 14,800 of the increase in indirect costs, we get down to 50,581 as a deficit on a $5.5 million budget. And then we look up above and we see we're collecting 93.9%. I'm saying if we collect 1% better, we're actually positive. We're positive 1,755. And if you slide over, we collect the rest of the revenues, and we collect the underestimated revenues for 12 months. We're to the good 883,000 for indirect costs. So those little tweaks, in my book, kind of accommodate both sides. So that's all I wanted to say on that. And I think if we could, if there's some agreement about that, that would give the administration confidence about their articles.
So my input is the consumer is not paying one bill, they're paying water and sewer together. They don't see how much is water is charged, how much sewer is charged.
You do?
In the sense like they see $130 and they have to break it down. And the water and sewer together in town of Walpole is higher than Norwood and sewer, Westwood. I'll just give you one number, how much difference it is. So water and sewer together for a residential bill comes around $130, 85 for 1,000 cubic feet. And that same in Norwood downs to $105, and Westwood it's $109. So that's the cost, most of the people have the same cost. Now, looking into the rates set by Westwood, Norwood, and Boston in last 2 years, Boston did not increase any water rates. They did increase the sewer rate. It's like 1 or 2%. Norwood also increased the sewer rate little bit. And Westwood increased the highest water rate to $102. But still, their rates are lower than us for a consumer. Lowest, I'm talking about the lowest bracket. I'm not even going to the highest bracket. So whenever we are trying to say that, okay, the water should go this much percent, sewer should go this much percent, we should look into the both number together also. And my suggestion was to put a slab into the sewer also. You know, the 4 slabs what we have, we can put in the sewer so that the consumer, the residential consumer, have a less impact, and the commercial consumer gets the most of the sewer cost.
Well, the other thing to remember is the sewer customer pays for the water once in the increase, then they pay for the water again to go in the sewer and pay the increase on that. So they pay twice for the water and 2 rate increases. So, you know, I can't see fudging the sewer rates upward, you know, I think.
So yeah, that's fine. My suggestion is to basically include both into the picture. Decide both percentage, whatever percentage you are thinking, like, you know, 1%, 2% on water, or 2%, 3% on the sewer. And then sewer also make it a slab going 10% up in the tier 3 and then 10% more up in the tier 4. So that itself will reduce the first 2 blocks sewer rate. So together, the impact is less.
How can you support the consumer and be pushing for a 10% increase in anything?
On the 3 and 4 tier.
Those are people too.
Yeah, that's true, but instead of trying to flatten the whole 5% increase to all, you're just putting the slab the way the Boston is doing, the way Norwood is doing, or Westwood is doing.
Well, many people that I've spoken to, in fact, I think a couple people that spoke at our last hearing said that they would like it all flat. They don't want any discrimination of skewing it up or down to any particular group.
Which is for the water. No one wants the, you know, differentiator, big differentiator.
Well, the sewer is flat. It's 3.6, period.
No, but in this whole proposal, there's a rate increase of 4% or 5%, isn't it?
5%, but the first 2 categories, we have several commissioners here who, including yourself, who wanted relief on the lower tiers.
Okay, that's true. But still, the sewer rates at different cities are also in incremental.
Well, we can't
block.
solve that tonight, though. I think
Okay.
what I'm proposing, and I agree with you, maybe there's a more global change that we have to implement and, you know, re-engineer. But as far as town meeting coming up shortly, I'm just trying to think of a way to reduce the stress and accommodate being able to get through town meeting successfully, you know, without a lot of.
That's fine. I'm just suggesting that we don't, you know, increment any tier very far numbers. Just use within the same range, like, you know, small 2.5 range.
Patrick?
Excuse me. Originally, I was against having a service fee, but somebody pointed out to me that one of the things I hadn't even figured out was, and this is a very poor example, but if somebody were to drill a well and they were on sewer, and we have a mechanism for that, no problem, but they have a hydrant in front of their house that they didn't pay for. All the other people who are on the water system are paying for that hydrant, is that correct? So I think if we do a fire protection fee, I'll call it that, it should be on all property. And maybe it should be on the assessed property. And they should have, and this is not crazy, because most places in the country have a fire protection fee. So if you have a building and it doesn't have water in it, I don't know why it wouldn't, but if it didn't, you'd still need to pay this fee. So if our customers are gonna pay this fee, I think it should be across the board. And people who aren't on the water system should also pay it. And I don't know how many, how, Mr. Director, how many roughly do we have?
220 households,
How many?
220.
Okay, and we have other buildings that aren't on the water system that need protection? Do we have other structures, let me put that way?
Not that I'm aware of, they're all residential.
No, I don't care if they're residential or commercial. There must be other structures that
Don't have water?
don't have water, right? They don't pay a water bill, let me put it that way. Let's say they're abandoned, but they're still not derelict,
No, I'm not aware of any of those.
okay? So that, I didn't know how many.
So are you talking about assessing a charge for something that somebody doesn't have?
Yes. That's exact, because they do have something. They have fire protection.
Not necessarily,
Okay, why wouldn't they?
because Cobble Knoll Drive, there are no fire hydrants.
Say that again?
Cobble Knoll Drive,
Yeah,
Lots Coach Road,
yeah, what about it?
there's no town water.
Okay,
Is there any,
So there are no fire hydrants.
how would you put out a fire there?
Quickly. Hopefully. With the tank.
How would you put it out?
They'd have to bring it in the tank.
You bring it in, and where would you get that from? The water? Are you gonna draft it?
Well, they could draft, depends, I mean,
But they're gonna take it out of the hydrants, aren't they?
firefighting tactics,
Yeah,
but would be a tanker truck.
So, but they'd have fire protection, it'd be using town water. Just saying.
I guess it's a stretch, but yeah.
Okay, people should pay their fair share, that's all.
I just have a question, and it's an interesting concept you're bringing up there, Pat, and I guess to Jim, can there, that would sound like it would be something that would be based on the property tax rather than the water bill. I mean,
Well,
and
you'd
I
be-
was just wondering, is that allowed in Massachusetts?
I don't
I'm not
believe
sure how
so.
you would get the revenue back into the water department, but
It would be, generally, it's on your tax bill. But
Property tax bill.
some of these states have
well, that's
school,
why I'm just asking. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but is it, you know,
It wouldn't be
is it
on our
allowed in
bill.
Massachusetts?
it is allowed in Mass, Westwood is charging for all the private fire services, for different
And is that on
businesses.
their, is
He's
that on
talking
their,
about no fire service at all.
No, if they have.
is that on their property tax bill or on a water
it's
bill?
On the water bill, if there's a private hydrant.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he's talking about no hydrant.
that's right.
Right.
oh, no hydrant, yeah, there's
But access
access to the,
to the public water system.
do they have access?
Yeah, we just talked about that, yeah.
If I had a fire on Cobble Knoll, I'd use
They
Norfolk.
have access. All right, and we get into something about the sewer, too. If you cast your minds back to about 10 years ago, we had a wicked, wicked rainstorm. I mean, it was, do you remember that? And it's interesting to note that every single town or city on the NWA water system had surcharges, except one. And the director knows what it was, right? What town? That's correct. Because we were fastidious in charging sewer fees to make sure our sewer system was running correctly. I think that the 5.5 and the 7.5 is a good figure to try and reach, to keep our sewer system running fine. If you have a surcharge, by the way, what happens is the surge comes out of the sewer and runs all over the place, which means it goes into the, you know, people's cellars or into the brooks or every place. So I think that's important that we keep up our prices on the sewer.
There's just one wild card in both of these rates.
What's that?
That's the connection fees.
Well, isn't that, I thought we settled that,
Settled it in,
the connection fees.
In what regard?
Huh?
No, I'm talking about the number of connections per year.
Yeah.
We try to project out what we're going to bring in for
Okay, you're
revenue.
talking about revenue.
Right, and then building dries up, and we don't generate those revenues. So the funds have to come from somewhere. You know, everybody says, well, you get 2.7 in retained earnings, 1.8 in retained earnings.
But
Trust me, it wasn't from what the ratepayers paid. It was what the water connection people paid. That's why you have such a surplus.
Yes. And we can't predict how many connection fees they're gonna be.
That's correct, but to say that we're overcharging because our rates are too high, that's not true. Because you can ask Jody how many times we've had to report to the Department of Revenue that our projections fell short.
Well, those rates are also projected, MWR looks at those. And you'll see that the different towns have different,
And like
Assessments.
Commissioner Hassenegger said, you know, there's some tension in setting this, and I've worked with some of you people for decades, okay? And I can't remember, over the course of my career, that it's been this contentious. A simple rate-setting process has been this contentious. A lot of finger-pointing, a lot of needlessly. It's just,
Well,
well,
yeah, let me say,
and another thing, comparing Walpole to Boston, Dedham Westwood, which is a district.
Yeah.
Totally different animal. Norwood, which is subsidized by taxation. There's no comparison. You're not comparing apples to apples, you're comparing apples to cantaloupes. And you can't go by what Norwood has in their system, because they have no pump stations, they have no treatment plants. So,
let's,
it's not a fair comparison.
I just finished one last thing for the time being. You know, we're talking about rates. We can adjust expenses, town administrator.
Yes, we can.
Yes. And we must have made attempts to adjust expenses, correct?
Yes.
Have we ever thought of intermunicipal agreements for water?
As
No,
far as-
here was what I'm thinking, and I'm not the administrator, but some places, they have, let's say, 3 or 4 towns get together, and they have somebody who's on all night long. And they have somebody available in case there's a leak someplace, or they can get to it, 3 o'clock in the morning. And what they do is they spread that cost over a geographical area, which might be something that we might want to look at. Just that I happen to be in the water business, I know about that. But there must be other things too, that we can adjust expenses and help the taxpayer. And Pradeep, what you say, I understand where you're going with it. You did a good job. You've done a lot of research, and you have very, very good points. And I think one of the worries that the town has is that they don't have maybe the personnel to do some of the things. But, that could be handled a bunch of different ways. And there should be either personnel increase or computerization or something
They are
like that.
overstaffed. Technically, they are overstaffed. So let's not go there. The billing and finance transactions as of today should be happening through online systems, which does not need human intervention. So technically, we are far behind that. I won't suggest human resource upgrades, but I'll suggest technical upgrades for us to bring up to the point where the user can do their own monitoring and they can do their own billing on themselves instead of relying on a human staff.
So you're gonna let a water consumer do their own billing? Is that correct, Pradeep?
Yes, Westwood user can see their water uses
Yeah,
until
we can do that
last
too.
hour.
We could do that too if we,
And
Just
they
wanted to.
can, they pay monthly bill without any surcharge of 40 cents or something. And same with Norwood. They, and lot of other town have a self-service customer portal specific for water. So those should be there for any,
I think we had
any
discussed that
budget.
before at one of the board meetings. We can bring people in and they can speak to the board about that. There are two different apps that I'm aware of that you can do to achieve what Pradeep is talking about. The way I look at it, it's a very expensive investment for what a very small portion of the people would actually use.
And people can use our website to pay their bills. They can
And
mail
look
their
at their
bills.
bills.
And look at their bills, and they can pay their bills for a minimal 40 cents to process, because the town can't pay to process a check. So they pay 40 cents, or they can mail it. It's, as soon as we get it, we deposit it and post it, so it's a day as soon as we get it. So there's nobody's not being able to pay their bills in the time of
I
having
pay-
it processed and
Yeah, I
deposited.
I pay through bank.
Yes, you
Yeah,
use.
and the post date, it takes 5 or 6 days for town to process it and show it in the system. That's not technically advanced.
That's different, because those bills don't, that check does not come with a bill. So we get hundreds of those a day, okay? And when one person doesn't put the right information on, that means we have to make sure every check is checked to make sure it's getting posted to the right account.
And that's
So clearly, on all of our bills, we
Yeah.
say that if you pay with an online check, there is a delay in posting because of the research that goes into that online bill. So if you mail it to our lockbox, it has to be returned to us. If you mail it directly to us, if you use that online check and you mail it to the town, it gets in the bank as soon as it hits our office.
The
But if it's
lockbox-
sent to our lockbox, lockbox has to have remittance.
Yes, which is electronic EDI 820 and 810. You don't need to touch computer for that. You don't need to check the paper for that. It's electronic transaction between the lockbox and the system.
Yes, and that's at a cost to the town. So we
Which
don't,
is-
we
which is
don't
being-
want to charge the
No,
taxpayers.
which is borne by almost all town, all over the US.
No town bears the cost of processing the
Of,
check.
for the water and sewer bill. Okay, don't say the statement, I can show you the town bills.
Right, when a town is subsidized by the general fund, yes.
Um,
My town,
You just talked about the finance charge, 40 cents and other stuff. I said no town is charging consumer extra for paying online bill electronically.
not that, yes,
Yeah,
you don't get
okay.
charged for the online check, but there is a time frame in which to post it. because
Which is still a old technology, because if it is online payment is made, it should show up in your billing system within 1 hour.
If we had the technology,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, is anyone ready to make a motion on,
Well,
Patrick?
we get in the budget hearing, but before you do that, just one thing, and it's just something that I find disconcerting, is that on the water bill, the account number
Yep,
is tiny, and it's mixed in with a bunch of other numbers. Every other utility bill I get, the account number is prominent. And I think maybe you should look at that when we're designing the bill again, is to make the account number readily seeable.
I'll
It's a
call
small thing, just,
Get your glasses on, Patrick.
Yeah.
you need a magnifying glass.
Mr. Hassinger, you had something?
Yeah, Rick, your comments, I don't think anybody is saying that the only way to satisfy the fair value of the water service is to solely put the burden on the rates. And I think we have mixed revenues, and I think we've gone along with recommendations you had actually on adding in the fixed rate, which is a good start to a fixed cost system to migrate that, so people do appreciate it's a universal type of asset that has to be covered. But, I would just say that, and we also did the fire suppression, which is $170,000 to the good on this. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to tweak, but we're not gonna tweak these before town meeting. And I'm looking for the hybrid as a solution to allow the administration to get through town meeting And I don't think it really upsets anything. I think we're within Jim's budget. So no harm, no foul. I mean, we're gonna keep working on this and revise and improve and change what we need.
We do
So-
have a rate hearing every year, John. And if things don't work out with this one, there's always next year we can make changes,
You can have 2 rate hearings a year if you want, you can adjust it anytime.
whatever.
So,
It's
I
not
mean,
cast in stone.
I'd like to make the motion that we submit these as a guidance. Well, two things, I guess. One is that we change the town's budget along the lines of these 2 worksheets. And a couple of them are adding revenues and a couple of them are subtracting figures. You know, the water, I think we're adding, well, this happens to be on my sheet, but I don't know if it was on the original hybrid sheet or not. We're adding the revenue sources of the flat rate, the fixed rate, in the water, $250 per quarter, which is $10 a year, and the fire suppression, which is $900 a year. And we are reducing or eliminating the increase in indirect costs from the town, which is a reduction of $50,683. And for estimating purposes, if we want to show a balanced budget at town meeting, we could up our estimate of average collections from 94 to 95%.
So is that your motion, John?
Yeah, for the water, yes.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Bill seconds it. Any other discussion? I hope not, but. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose.
So no vote.
And as you remember, John and Mark, when I told you, this would yield just what it did.
Mr. Johnson gave me a compromise idea here that we might be interested in. It was to leave the step 1 and 2 at 0%, 5% for step 3, and 14% for the fourth one, and $97,500 for fire suppression. I would make that as a motion.
So 97,000 for fire,
Rick,
500.
pass that down, buddy.
Can I get a second on it? Oh, and there'd be
Okay,
also no surcharge. No second? Okay, where do we go now?
no, I'm just wanted to look and see where it,
So what John had asked, do you mind if I just jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So what you have in front of you, and I was trying to do the same motion for what John had proposed, is a 00514 on the
Right.
water side. It takes the fire suppression that Patrick had proposed a week or 2 ago
right,
for 100 customers. It uses 158,782 in retained earnings. And it basically, it keeps the blocks consistent throughout. I know on some of the other proposals, like John's, we had proposed a 1, 2.5, but for all the others, for the irrigation, the other one, it was 5 across the board. So we just, I kept it consistent per his directive, his request to 00514.
one of the concerns I have, if I read this right, is that it requires using $158,000 worth of retained earnings. And one of the goals that I had in working with John was to get that to 0 or, in striking distance. It might be $10,000 where, with a $6 million budget, which most of its estimates, not the expenses, but the revenue, that we could basically get to the point of not using any retained earnings.
My hope with that, Bill, is we'll be able to make up some of the, I think Rick and Scott, as you get into the ARPA funds, I share that, and I think I started out, when I came out of the gate, guns a-blazing at 18 and 11.5%, where this guy wanted to kill me. I said no
We all
retained
did.
earnings. I know you did. But what I'm trying to do here is just go in with the balanced budget and hopefully use some of those ARPA funds to make up, is it a long-term solution that I love and that Jody's gonna love? No, but it gets us a budget that's balanced.
This 158,000, none of it is items that are capital items that I assume the ARPA money will be going for capital items.
Thought process behind that one is, we'd be using some retained earnings in the fall for capital projects. So, one way or another, the retained earnings would get spent. And maybe Pradeep is correct, and maybe John is correct, that we are conservative in our estimates, and maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised when retained earnings comes in. But I can tell you, even with the retained earnings we used over the last, and I can't believe I'm advocating for using retained earnings, we still have about $1,452,000 left. Right now, when you take into consideration our legal liability, the fall capital, and the retained earnings that was used for FY '22.
My concern is we started with 400,000, and then we were gonna go to 2, didn't work out. Now we're doing, it's like, if you just keep doing it, you're gonna keep doing it the next year. And, that's why when I was working it out with John, I do have concerns about that the 3 key items, that one of them isn't going to, and maybe none of them are going to be accepted. And that's why I was saying, all right, and I was looking to see, okay, if you looked at the tier 3 and 4, which, and John's were 5%, okay, if you went to 7 and 10 to replace, whether it's the $2.50 or the level funding, the indirect or whatever. But at the end, I'd like to get to the point where we're not using retained earnings, so.
Yeah, let me comment on, I think that 14% is, you're gonna have shockwaves if you do that. I don't think you people realize, someone in tier 4 who's on sewer, they're paying for water. When they pay for water, in that budget, the MWA has raised it 5% already. So the MWA has raised their rate 5%, they get paid for the water, they're 5%. You're raising it 14%. Then they're paying for the water again, and then they're paying another 5% or whatever for the sewer. It's like, really?
90% of those users are
25% increase? I
for-profit.
mean,
90% of those users are for-profit businesses.
And no one, and then they
It's
sewer,
it's
no one's,
inequitable.
for
It's not
sewer,
equi-
no one's
it's not
talking
equitable.
about
It's not
14% on
fairness.
the
It's
sewer.
not,
You're talking a 3.6% on the sewer.
The large apartment complexes, those are for-profit, correct?
But poor people lives there. It will show up in
There's
their
very
bill.
few of them, Pradeep. There's a small handful
There's no
in,
multifamily house in the,
in tier 4.
there's no multifamily house in the Walpole.
yeah, well,
My
if you had to go up to
my street has-
9%,
yeah.
I could hold my nose and do it, but when you go to teens, I think you're just,
Well-
giving society,
Yeah.
this is bigger than Walpole.
Right.
And giving society, people that are thinking like that are crazy, they're ruining this country. And I won't participate in it.
Well, we had a motion, did we have a second on yours?
No, we did not.
Oh, well, we had a motion and a second, and that failed.
Okay, Joe, can we hear from the people, the audience, just before we
I don't see why not.
make any
Anyone
roll
would like to
calls? Maybe
speak?
somebody would like to say something, comment on something.
What is it?
Sounds like you guys are never gonna agree on anything.
We'll agree.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm concerned about that. One,
We always have.
so if you don't agree, what happens? You don't set rates for this year, what happens?
Well, we'll get rates. This is not an actual rate-setting hearing.
Yeah,
We
but,
do that later in the year.
7 and 10 or something.
so
Just some guidance from Mr. Johnson.
What would happen is it stay the same.
it stayed the same. So the problem comes for the town, is gotta put a budget, and the town meeting has to vote on a budget, without really knowing what you're gonna do for revenues. So my concern is, it seems crazy to set the rates in June.
Well,
If you let me finish. I'm gonna get, you asked for what the audience thoughts are, I'm gonna share my thoughts and we'll gladly.
I thought you were finished.
No, I was actually in the middle of a sentence when you started talking there. It just seems crazy to me, you're putting a budget together without actually knowing.
Sir,
what-
can I ask who you are, please?
Oh, sure, Dennis Crowley.
Okay, you get that?
He's the vice chair of FinCom.
But, you know, all of you, I assume, are in business, run businesses. You set your rates, you know what you should be getting for revenue. You then put a budget together off of your revenue, understand what your expenses are, and there we go, there we've got a budget. It sounds like we're putting a budget together without any idea really on, I guess we have some idea, but no clear definition of what the rate should be. It just seems crazy to me that you're setting rates and have been doing this for years in June for a budget that needs to be approved by the town meeting in May. I mean, these rates should be set in April so that it can be understood, the budget could be fully generated and put together, and that town meeting can vote to approve a proper budget off of knowing what the rates are. In the last number of years, rates have been, and I'm going back now to 10-plus years, when I first remember Bill coming in and talking to the Finance Committee. And at the time, it was, the Great Recession was going on, and we were worried, so we're gonna spend some retained earnings, which were pretty high and good, to help offset the rates for the consumer. But that has been going on now for 10, 12 years. And at some point, we're gonna run out of those. We had that discussion last week, I won't run into it. But it just seems crazy that rates should be set before the town meeting, so a proper budget can be put together and allow everyone to run it. That's how any organization outside of government would run their business. And I would hope that you guys can do the same. You asked for comments from me, from the group, there they are. Thank you very much.
So I have a comment on it. The rate, whatever we set in June is not effective until the bill is generated. And bills are generated like 4-5 months behind the rate settings. So if the rates are set in June or 1st July effective, there is a flow of the rates, bills, which are still going out until November or December, which are based on the old rates. So the actuals, what you're seeing now, I see an actual of last 9 months, which is $4.7 million for the water. It has a 5 months of revenue from the old rates. And this $4.7 million is almost near to the $5.7 million of the budget, 83%. We still have 3 months to go, and there's no bill which has gone out after February 22nd of this year. So we still have to bill consumer for March, April, May, and June for next 4 months, on average of $1 million per month.
So you got me confused, so just if I can understand what you just said.
You said that the rate should
The rate
be.
put together last June.
Yeah, you said that rate should be first and this should be there, but the town is not working that way. The town is working other way. Even if you are setting the rate in June, the bills are going late. They're going until September, October with the old, rates. And then the actuals are coming in November and December.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you said, so let's just say the hybrid model that I've heard about got approved tonight for fiscal year 2023, which starts in July. The rates that exist today, those rates would not take effect until next winter?
Rate are effective 1st July, okay. But the bills don't go out on 1st July. The bills are not going out on July 31st also. The bills are going, the first bill of that rate may go in August, okay, but that will be partial.
But if I'm using water in July and August,
Yeah.
am I using it,
I
the
didn't
rate?
get a second.
New rate, the new
Yeah,
rate.
so, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that makes-
but
that's it, I mean, I set
We
rates
don't
for my
get this, we're not
business,
gonna get anything.
charge people when I get a 30, 60-day collection period.
Yeah, so
That's just normal.
when you have 9
You
months,
can budget off the revenue that's coming in, and, we've got a difference between cash flow and.
so you're saying that, there's no need to do the rate hearing before June. That's what you're saying now.
I disagree with you 100% on that statement.
And-
You are so wrong. That's
And
just
if you have
crazy.
5 months of delay in collecting a bill, then how does
It's
it
not
matter?
collecting the bill, you're billing it at the rate that's set, so when the revenue
Yeah.
comes in, it's at the higher rate.
You have to tell me the actual. You have to tell the actuals then, because the actual which is showing
But the actuals, everything built from the
I told you about this.
July, August, September, October, November, all the way through now, are at the rates that were set last June, correct?
25%
That's the only thing we're gonna get.
So when the revenue comes in, it's just the timing of the revenue received, but you're accounting for it
increase rate.
on the new rates going back. So it's difference just between cash received and the accounting method on it, but at the end of the day,
The globe in here.
you're getting it, so the budget should be off of what you're billing.
Yeah, so
I'd love to get cash sooner, there's no one that can complain about it, and as a consumer, I'd love to pay later, so it's the catch-22 between it all, but, I mean, setting the rate, put a budget for the fiscal year off of rates that you know you should be able to achieve unless there's some dramatic swing up or down. Only makes sense to do it before town meeting votes. Before town meeting should be voting on a budget, then town meeting should really be setting a budget for you guys that they think you can live within, without having to hit into the retained earnings or other things from there.
That's not town meeting's job.
Well, it's the town's money.
It's still not the town meeting's job, sir.
Town meeting approves your budget, correct?
Right.
Yeah, you guys set the rates, but the town meeting sets the budget and the spend.
Okay. Patrick,
Am I right on that?
could you go along with this 0, 0, 5 and 14, plus the,
I don't like, John, I need to think about that. You know, I'm absolutely in favor of 0, 0. And, at least that part of it. But, you know, Pradeep makes a mighty good case about 0 across the board, but
today, I'm saying today, because the number which they are giving is like they have 83% already collected for this 9 months of the revenue.
maybe over in the corner there, huh?
And so I don't know, you know, when we sit in the rate hearing in June, we may have some different numbers. The numbers which are given to us always has a asterisk that bill was not done after February 22nd.
John, I think I'm saying I need more time, okay?
Well, we're not gonna come to anything tonight.
I know that, but I will tell you, I'm in favor of 0, 0 for the first 3,900.
I think it was to
cubic
take
feet.
care of the elderly and the low-income people. That's
And
why
I would
wanted
even
those
agree
two.
to $2.50 per billing quarter.
See, I'm against that.
But that's a cup of coffee, John.
Well,
I know, I
it's
know.
a tax.
Okay, it
It's
is.
another tax.
Oh, it is. But, you know, but again, I can justify it a little bit
$10, John.
by the
It's still
fire
a tax.
protection.
Of course it is.
Whether you raise the rate at 0, 0 and go up a little bit on it, or you charge the $2.50 a quarter, it's still an increase.
Because, John, there are people who have a house, they're not gonna turn the spigot on, and they have the water system, they have the hydrants, they have the pipes, they have all the services, and then paying a dime because they're not using the water.
They have to use the water.
No, they don't.
What are you
There are a
talking,
number of
people?
houses, there are
What are you
probably
talking,
50
people
houses
on
in
wells?
Walpole that they're not using their water right now. People aren't living in them.
Are they on wells?
No,
How are they living without water?
they're not living in a house.
Oh, wow.
You know there's seasonal houses in Walpole, Town Administrator?
I did not know that.
Okay, because there are, and I can get you the number. It's not a huge number, but there are seasonal houses.
Possible.
Where they come from, the
Most
Cape?
of the
Pardon me?
They come up from the Cape?
I don't know, but I know there's seasonal housing, and it's not a lot, but there is. Anyway, John, you can convince me to get rid of that, because I know what you're saying. But I would like to see that taken off the 2 first tiers, but how do you do that? You know, you can't do that.
John, you gave a lecture at the last meeting saying how conservation and raising the block rates has caused people not to buy water. Remember that? Remember you saying that?
No.
Yeah, you said,
Well,
we had conservation and we've
We did, we cut,
raised the block rates so people aren't buying enough water. You remember saying that?
we gave them rebates of the washers and toilets to try to cut down the use, and then we complain because they're not using enough,
Well, then how can you go with 0, John?
you know?
How can you go with 0 if that's the case? How can you beat the budget if you're gonna have a 0 rate increase?
Because there's some people who can't afford it.
Well, where's the money coming from?
What money?
to run the department. The department doesn't care whether you use the water or not, it costs the same thing.
On the
It's a
first
fixed
two
cost.
tiers, the people,
It's $6 million. You have to raise $6 million. If they don't use the water, where's the money coming
they
from?
can control the water they use in the first two tiers.
Where's the money coming from? You
Well,
and
don't
John are
forget-
great, you're not collecting any money, you're not using any
It's
water.
not like it's
How are you
free.
go- How are you gonna pay for the budget?
It's not like it's free. They still have to pay the original charge like they paid last year. It's,
They're
they're not
using
getting an
less.
increase, huh?
They're using less. You know what Bill's study shows.
Point is,
You're
they're-
selling less water.
The
You're collecting
increase-
less money. So
the
how can you do it at zero? How can you have a rate of zero?
you can do zero increase for the first two tiers.
Sir, would you like to jump in?
I got two questions. Jeff Fisher, Precinct 5, FinCom. Mr. Hassenegger had a couple of good points on how we can supplement a little bit of the budget, and that was on the uncollected. I think we're at 5.5% on water, about 6% on sewer. Can somebody explain to me what happens with that 5.5?
Celine.
So it's eventually collected by leaning it onto the real estate bill. So it's never, it's uncollected water, and then when it's, after a year, we lean it to the next fiscal year's tax bill. So eventually it will be collected, whether it's through water or through the real estate bill. So it's just that moment it's being uncollected, but we get it through liens.
We don't shut people off or anything like that. Is it feasible, I mean, I like the idea, increase your collectibles, but is it feasible to increase a percent on water and a percent on sewer?
So, excuse me, so what, excuse me, what we did this year is, before we leaned, we sent letters out, okay? So we sent some letters out in October saying, you know, you could potentially be leaned. So when we had 3 major corporations that owed over 100,000, they paid it immediately, we collected it. So we're trying to, you know, we send letters out for water liens, we send letters out for collection. Yes, you know, we're looking at
I got an
ways
idea.
of increasing the collectibles.
Gets almost everybody
I'm
what they
new,
want.
I've been here for 2 years, you know, but that is one way. We did see an increase by even just sending those letters out in October. So, you know, this year you might even see collectibles be a smidge more because we sent the letter out, but, you
So the
know,
1% recommendation that's theoretically,
I can't say yes or no.
But not only that, we're gonna get the money.
we will.
The point is,
may
the
not be
estimates
the-
here are misleading, because we're showing that you're not collecting that money, but actually we're collecting up to $970,000 more than, yeah, so we, you know, the rates aren't driving the model. You're gonna have enough money of retained earnings. It's just not showing on the estimate. The estimates are low, and the collectibles aren't 100%, but we're gonna get it.
Does that money come back into the water and sewer later?
Okay,
Is that reflected in the
so I think I have, I'm sorry to cut you off, Denny. I've been crunching numbers here, trying to figure out motions. So I might have a solution that I know probably all you won't like, but maybe 3 of you might like. Okay.
Can I ask
So-
a second question first?
I vote yes. Oh, wait a minute, I should wait?
Jeff's got a
Yeah,
second
Jim, he's
question.
got one more question.
One more question. The fire suppression assessment. So, like, the demographic of the businesses or the people that we're targeting there? Because you gave me a $900,000 bill simply because I got a fire hydrant in my front yard. That $900 is more than I pay for my entire water bill for the year. So, who are we hitting with that $900 fee?
It's primarily commercial and industrial.
I mean, any of these small businesses?
Anybody that has a fire-
Is it gonna be a huge impact?
Anybody that has a fire sprinkler riser, I believe, is what you wanted.
Right.
And a fire hydrant, a private fire hydrant in the parking lot or somewhere. Not any,
They can,
Okay, so, do you mind, Jeff? Because it's fresh in my head. Okay, John, you said you don't want anything over 10%, or you don't like anything in the teens. So what I just plugged in was a 0, 0, 5, 9.9 across the board, just like John's proposal here that he had asked me to do. And then what I did, I increased the fire suppression to 1,250 for the 100 customers. So that takes in, that leaves a balance of 161,679. So the motion would be to, in the sum of 4,738,085 come from $3.88046 in user fees, $296 in receipts, and $161,679 in retained earnings. So that gets you below the 10% as you asked. It has the fire suppression in there. It gets you at 0 and 0, and the 5. Can you guys live with that?
You know, that's why we pay you the big bucks.
Hey, that's what I've been typing away here.
But what about the ARPA funds?
Let's get
That's
this
gonna
part
change
done
the
first,
dynamics.
Let's get this part done first.
Well,
Yeah,
as long as we,
we have to have something, and
well,
that
this
gets
is,
3 votes, so.
this is not setting the rates. This is just for giving you guidance.
Direction for the town
Yeah,
administrator.
for this motion, that's gonna be, because the finance committee wants a motion to go off of, for town meeting, and this,
You don't need it,
you guys have took
like
it
you never
last-
had it.
You took it last year, I looked it
No,
up.
no, all the, since the Sewer and Water Commission's been here, we always do it right before the fiscal year.
Well, it's a shadow, we're approving
March
the
22nd,
shadow.
2021, I did, I promise you, I went back and looked.
Yeah. So, do we have a motion with that? Was there a motion made on?
He made a motion.
I think,
I'll make the motion.
all right, what Jim said. I will second it.
You make the motion you want.
We second it, okay.
I did.
All right, we have a motion, and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That sounds like 3 to me. You got it.
No,
Is all opposed?
And another- And another no problem. Right, 3-2.
Let's go into sewer. We're on a roll.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're rolling.
that was harder, but, okay. So what's
What do you got
proposed?
for sewage? John?
Okay, what do you got proposed for sewer? Let's make a deal. Okay, so I have a 7.5% increase per what Patrick discussed. That includes a 2.5 and a 5% MWRA. No retained earnings, 208,000 from the old capital projects that I mentioned. One's 3,400 and change for a generator that's complete, and the remaining 204 from that Morningside project that I mentioned, which I would suggest would be a top priority for the select board to fund via ARPA. And then a $5.50 fee per bill charge per quarter. I know John wanted to wade into that a little bit slower, at least we won't get it with the water, but to make the sewer work, and we're in a lot tougher shape with the sewer retained earnings. When you take into consideration, we currently have about 446 left there. So this proposal uses no retained earnings.
Hey, Patrick,
yeah, I put forth, I know that the assessment is 5% from the MWRA. That's what it is. And then I figured that 2.5 is not an unreasonable increase for things that happen. The prices do go up. Into the supermarket, you can see that. But John, I don't want any more, a fee on that also. Okay, and I voted against this, the water rate, only because I want it in June. The sewer rate, I can live with, I think everybody can live with 5 and 2.5, which is 7.5. I don't think we want to put another fee on that. That's, like you say, it's a tax, and our sewer is wicked expensive.
Yep.
I mean, you look at it, it's, you know, it's a great sewer system, and, you know, a lot of towns would like to have that type
I
of.
don't have sewer, but I don't want to kill the people that are on it either.
That's the truth.
Well, that's, the misnomer there is, the sewer, MWRA is a pass-through. There's 2 checks that are written for MWRA, and that's 88% of the budget. Our actual sewer operations, out of a $5.5 million, is only $900,000. That's all we run. The rest of it goes to the MWRA. We're writing them a check for 5% increase already. It's built into our model. You can't put another 5% on top of that. You're double billing the increase, and then you're putting an increase on top of that. The 5% is already in the budget, so you don't add it again. That's why this 3.6% makes sense. Again, those people are paying for the water increase, then they're paying the 5% that's already built in the budget, or that's, we don't have to raise that revenue, it's already in the budget. and then they're paying the increase on that again. And that's crazy. I don't know. I showed you how you can break even at 3.6%. I don't know why you don't want to do that. I don't understand. And I think that is, for the first step in a fixed fee, it's a little bit usurious to go to $22. I think $12 is more palatable, but, you know, I want to quabble about that piece of it. But again, I think you should not get your increase in your indirect costs, 14,800. What I showed here is a break-even example at 3.6%. Pretty straightforward and simple. So I don't know, why would you want to go beyond it?
Yeah, my only opinion is that I'm against any fixed fees per bill charge, because if I ask the town people how they're going to run the bills, at what time, I won't get a correct answer here, so, no fixed fees.
You'll get a correct answer, you just won't get the answer that you want.
That's fine, we still have to, look into the
Please don't be
personal-
accusing the staff of misleading you
I'm
or
not,
being
I'm
untruthful
not.
with you.
You have not billed any customer after February 22nd. That's the fact.
You say they don't give you a correct answer. is
They
what you
don't
said.
give correct answer. Until yesterday, they're saying they're 30 days behind. The correct answer is they are more than 60 days behind in billing the customer.
Get an idea.
That's the point.
I'm all about compromise tonight.
Compromising everything.
Okay. So what we could do is we go, if you want to get rid of that $5 and $50 charge, that's a difference. I gotta make up for that 116 somewhere. So in the motion I proposed to you, the assessment was 208 from that old project that wasn't completed yet. The total amount left is 299,956. So if we went with the total amount left, 299,956, that would leave us with a balance of 24,749 we need to come up with. As much, again, I'm looking to get, balance a budget. In big picture, almost $25,000 is not a lot, you know, we can deal with that as part of the 446. So the recommended motion, I think that maybe could get 3 votes, was raise the sum of $5,097,878 in the following manner. User fees, 4.322273. Miscellaneous receipts, 267,500. Morningside Drive and the portable generator for a combined total of 299,956. And sewer retained earnings, that leaves a balance of 24,279.
So what's the percent of the increase on that?
Percent of the increase is what Patrick mentioned there at 7.5.
7.5?
And no per bill charge.
What was the end of the retained earnings?
The use of the retained earnings would be 24,749.
All right.
So 446 minus 24,000, that takes us down to, what's that? 420 left in there.
Patrick, you wanna make that motion?
I'm not gonna make that motion because
Okay.
we don't know how much money we're gonna get. We can't set the rates now. We have to wait till,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that a motion.
I'm still talking. And you're making motions.
Just sliding in it.
That's rude.
I apologize, Patrick.
Thank you.
You took a deep breath and I thought you were done.
Oh, I know, I understand that. So, I can't vote for that, even though I agree with it, because we don't know how much money's coming in. So why are we setting rates when we don't know how much money we're getting?
How much do you want? No, seriously.
Okay, all right. And you know what? You're gonna help me decide that, aren't you?
I can,
Understand what you need.
Yes, you are, okay. Then I'll know.
I
But I don't know now. I don't know tonight. And I don't understand why my brother commissioners would be setting rates when they don't know what's gonna happen vis-à-vis the federal funds.
I'm looking at the setting of the rates is for basically operational, and the ARPA funds, it's one-time money, you're gonna use that for capital items. You're
But you
certainly
set the
not,
capital also. You did everything tonight if you do this.
We have to apply.
5% increase here on sewer. bill.
yes, but
That's
it's still
5%
one-time
loss.
money. You know,
Give them another 7.5% on top of
you don't
that.
pay your grocery bill with one-time money. You're not gonna eat.
Patrick, we're gonna set the rates in a couple months.
No, I think he thinks you set the rates tonight.
No,
just the budget,
we're just giving them a direction.
I understand, I am completely clear, and I'm on camera, you're not setting the rates tonight. I totally understand that. I'm just trying to develop the motion for town meeting.
We were giving you guidance. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
But it changed a little bit.
No, so, to do what apparently either yourself or Mr. Spillane is, to not have any fixed charge, even though it's the price of a cup of coffee, you're gonna double the rates for the sewer user from 3.6% to 7.5%. That's what you wanna do.
There was,
That's what you wanna do.
wait, John, maybe.
And that, no, but I wanna finish, for the people listening, not only is he doing that, but that 7.5%, you're paying, the budget has a 5% increase for the sewer already that the people are paying. So you're paying 5%, then a 7.5% increase, and you're paying on the water that they're increasing another 5%. It's like a 20% increase. That's discrimination. I won't vote for it.
Okay, the town administrator,
I
how do
wanna
you,
vote for it.
how do you want, answer his,
I
Put
don't,
the fixed fee in, that's what
Huh?
it's in there for.
I don't understand the math on that one, so I can't.
could you explain it again, John?
Here, I'll show it to you right in your own budget. In your budget, you've increased sewer 5%. Right here. Okay?
Yes,
That's in the budget.
the MWRA
Yeah.
assessment, yes.
Now-
That's what Patrick was talking
Yeah.
about,
Now,
right? Yes.
when your revenue goals, we're gonna go and increase the sewer another 7.5%. Is that correct?
To cover the 5% increase.
No,
We're
You're gonna
paying-
increase the rate by
we're
7.5% to
paying this.
cover the
We're only paying
5% increase.
5%.
No,
Yeah, we are. It's in our budget. You've got
Right.
nothing to say about it.
that's why you
Indirect's
need to set
charging
the
you.
rate to cover that expense.
Yeah, but
You have
Indirect
to
is
fund
charging you
that.
5%. It's in your budget already. It's in your budget, your 5.5 million.
Right, that's why we need to set the rate to cover that 5%
I know, but
increase.
you don't, I just gave you an example where you don't have to do that. I just showed you.
But how did you get to a 20% increase?
I'm adding up the increase of the cost of the sewer.
Right, but the MWRA assessment increased by 5%,
Yeah.
$200,000, something like that, okay? So that's included in the expenses, the bottom line expenses of the sewer operating budget.
Right.
In order to fund that 5% increase, you need to increase the sewer rate by 7.5%.
Well, no, you don't have to
I think you have to look at the
You have to look at your
MWA
revenues.
increase.
According to your revenues, I gave you a sheet that shows you how you can do it with 3.6%. And you've got the fixed fee in there that you asked for.
I did ask for it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that solves it. So why are we doubling the sewer rate and getting rid of your fee?
It's not doubling, John. How is the sewer rate doubling?
From three
it
point
was
six
doubling, it'd
percent
be
to
100.
7.5.
But if the rate itself were doubling, it would be $190 per thousand.
You're doubling the percentage of
That's your
increase.
proposing, yeah.
You're doubling your percentage of increase.
You have to look at the MWA.
It's 100% increase.
The MWA performs a service
So
and they
if-
increasing 5%.
Patrick, to circle back to your question, I'm not looking for a rate setting, I'm just
I
looking
thought a cup
for,
of coffee wasn't a big thing to you. Why are you opposed to a fixed fee?
I'm opposed to any fixed rates,
yeah.
except for fire protection. And the sewer doesn't protect fire.
Well, you're opposed to the department. The department's a fixed cost. If you're not gonna have any fixed fees to cover fixed costs, you're gonna have a hard time ever sustaining that.
Don't forget, we're not, everybody's paying. It's just that we're not increasing tier 1 and tier 2. We're not increasing the
No, there's
low
no
water
tiers in
users.
sewer.
We're not
You're
increasing, they're
increasing
still paying,
7%.
they're paying $53 for every 1,000 cubic feet.
Paying $97. This is sewer we're talking about. We're
Oh,
talking
sewer, yeah, sewer, right. We don't have
You're
much,
doubling it.
we
You're going
don't
to
have
s-
much control
you're
over
going from
that,
3
because it's not our sewer. The sewer basically belongs to the
I
MWRA.
don't understand why you'd wanna charge double, you have to. Makes no sense to me.
Well, looking at it the way I am, is that if they increase the cost to the town by 5%, I understand that, the assessment went up 5%. Now, you need, things have gotten expensive, and I know it probably, you need at least 2.5% to run the department,
What I would be looking for.
extra.
Is, and I understand,
I know, you want
saying the rate.
11%.
No, okay, I want 11%. I want to, would request to vote favorable action on the sewer budget as proposed by the town administrator, as I just read. Again, I'm not voting on the rates tonight. I just, the budget is, and I did go back and pull it from last March, that's what you voted.
How are you gonna satisfy John's theory on how that works?
This-
He says we can do it for, what'd you say, 3?
3.6 with the flat rate that,
It's a reduction in the.
Rick
Flat
Ransom.
rate, I lose, the town loses, the budget loses 116,600.
I don't think he's.
And you have to come up with it somewhere, and I'm
yeah, well,
completely tapped out
well,
as far
these
as
two
that.
guys are making that, because they won't go along with a cup of coffee. If we left that in there, it's all set.
You can't even buy a cup of coffee for $2.50 anymore.
That's right, Starbucks went up.
So, so what are you holding out on it? You're screwing this up because you won't go along with them? Let's see there, that Rick proposed.
I think it's another tax.
It's only a cup of coffee, John.
I don't care, it's still a tax.
Well, it isn't, it covers fixed costs.
If
That's
you
what
wanna,
we're
if
doing
you wanna
next.
do that, increase the rate from 7, where the heck it is, to 8 or whatever you have to do.
So I don't think they're gonna get there for you, John.
Well, I'm not gonna vote for it then. I'm sorry, it's just not.
I still
there's
don't
no-
understand,
there's
you
no
know, how
reason
you're
to.
doing it.
Yeah,
To me,
can I
it's-
ask a question too? I'm not quite sure where you're going with the 7.5% is doubled, or whatever you said. I'm not following that, because if.
When you get water, you're paying a 5% increase on the water.
Exactly.
It's the same water, again, that you're being charged when you go to the sewer, and you have an increase on that again. So it's another 7.5% on top of that.
Sewer, their charge went up 5% with the MWRA.
Our costs went up 5%. That's 80% of our
So you need
budget.
to find funding for that. So that's 80% of the budget, and then we're considering another 2.5 or something like that
Well, that would be.
on top of that. So
Well, no,
that makes
just say
sense
if you
to
have
me.
80% of your budget was 5%, that means your budget's 4%. You need 4% to cover your budget.
Right, but what about all the other increasing costs?
It's only 900,000.
I'm sorry?
Our operating portion of the sewer budget is very small. The MWA takes 4.6 million out of 5.5 million. What's left is 900,000. That's what we run. They get
But we
the
still
check for the
need to
rest.
increase
And so
to-
we run out, that small amount, you've got 50% in indirect costs. 47% indirect costs, which you could probably have to explain someday. That's
That's
a
fine.
big number.
Yep, I'm ready.
5% on the MWRA assessment and 2.5% on the operating costs,
So the,
whatever that comes out to.
and there's, salaries are only 371,000, the rest are benefits. And, there's not that much,
But that's the cost of business.
well, I know it is. I'm trying to keep the prices down, I'm trying to keep the
Oh,
cost
I
of the
understand.
consumer down.
I understand,
and
but
the-
at
and
the
the-
same time,
The fixed cost is important because the business you're talking about is a fixed cost business. So it makes sense to have a fixed fee that Rick recommended. By not doing that, they're going up to a very high rate. And the people are already getting charged.
You know, John, I look at it this way. We look at what people are paying last year. Okay, we see their bill. Let's say it's $100, okay? So we know the MWRA, their assessment has increased. Let's say it increased $20 for each person, okay? So far, so good, and we need, let's say, $5 to run the system, our own system with the things we do with the storage, repair the pipes, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to get $25 more than the assessment, right? Is that correct?
No.
Oh, okay, all right, then I truly don't understand. Tell me
There's there's two items here. The $116,000 raised by the flat fee we propose, and not giving the increased indirect cost to the town. Those two items get you into a sweet spot with covering the sewer.
the people are gonna pay,
So, and you've got revenues outstanding coming in of 588,000, and uncollecteds for 290,000. So you have over $800,000 coming in that isn't estimated in this formula. So you wanna double the cost of the increase to the sewer, to the
no,
residents.
the increase would be,
From 3.6 to 7.5, it's a double.
That's what John's proposing.
So the per bill charge is $12 a year. Okay, so if you take that rate from 3.6% to 7.5%, the $12 is gonna be eaten up very quickly. Probably within the first month. So I think along those lines, I think Commissioner Hassenegger's proposal is fair. If you put the per bill charge on and keep the increase at 3.6%.
See?
7.5% without the service
of the
charge
service charge.
is going to be
Why
far
would you
more.
do a service charge for sewer?
Why don't we?
Huh?
Did you say, why don't we?
Why would you do it?
We put just as much service into the sewer system as we do the water system.
But don't forget, everybody, the entire town benefits from that. When the Sewer and Water Commission decided to, let me cast your mind back, some
It's
history.
John's septic right there.
I know. And Abbott's you're on septic, aren't you? No, you're not? How come poor John isn't?
They put a bridge in the way.
They put a bridge in the way, is right.
Okay, what happened if
He's
you,
on the other side of the tracks, too.
a little bit of history. When they built Deer Island Treatment Plant, they went to the towns and they said, how much of your town are you going to sewer? Because your assessment is gonna be based on that, because we have to size the Deer Island plant. Right? Walpole said, we're going to sewer every single inch of the town of Walpole. So we got an assessment that reflects that. Okay. So now, if you're charging people this extra fee, right, for some reason, and it's a revenue-raising fee, is that why you're doing it?
Correct.
Okay. We're paying for John to be on sewer, and he's not. He's not paying anything. But we paid to have him have the ability to have sewer.
He
for
doesn't
all
want to
the
be on sewer
users.
either.
Huh?
He doesn't want to be on sewer.
I'm saying, you have the right to be on sewer.
Right.
And the ratepayers are still paying for that. You're right. So everybody should be paying that fee, not just the sewer users. That should be on the bill, saying, this is a payment that you have because you have access to the sewer, right?
I don't have access, Pat.
Pick a number you can live with and we'll put it on the bill.
John, you have access.
No, I don't have access at this point.
No, you have legal access.
You'd have to figure.
Legal, yeah, but
Yeah, that's all.
not
That's-
material access.
That's what this would be. That's-
This is like you have a vac truck.
That's what I think it
You
is.
have to have, you're paying for a vac truck, whether it's ever used or not.
Yeah.
It's there for the people who use it. There are certain things that a fixed fee mitigates the
So I'm against
slope
the
of
fixed fee.
costs. And it's just, 75% of the towns in Massachusetts have fees.
I don't care if 100%
Well, I know,
do it.
but I mean, there's other people that have that logic.
Yeah, but I think, like John says, it's a tax, and I'm not about to increase,
It's not a
especially
tax.
the sewer rates are so high anyway, that we're going to tag on some more?
Remember
No,
Roger Turner complained about not enough is going back into the ground?
I know. He thought, you're doing a good job with your sewer.
Thank you.
right. You're recharging the aquifer.
Well, Pardeep, would you have any interest in keeping the sewer rates at 3.6 instead of 7.5?
The only suggestion I had was to put the slab so that the lower rate, if you're saying 3.6%, is for the lower residential customer, and the slab, the tier, let's say tier 3 and 4.
There's no tier in the sewer.
So I was suggesting to include that tier-based system so that we basically pass the buck on the commercial people more than the residential people.
Some towns do have tiers on the sewer, and all I can tell you is, having developed it for water, it's not something that you can just do in a half hour and raise the revenue that you need.
And what's the
I'll just-
rationale for that?
What?
What's the rationale for having tiers on storage?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying that people do. I just,
There is no
before,
rationale.
before others are suggesting that we do it, it's not something, it's not a trivial thing to come up with and that raises the revenue. It's easy just to say, well, okay, the first X number, and
Okay. You know that we're bound by the arbitrary and capricious rule. I had to say it.
I knew it was coming.
You
You
can't
haven't used
just
that song
raise,
later, eh?
you can't dream up stuff. You have to have some rationale behind it.
exactly.
Okay, like we have tiers for water.
Right.
We can justify that. Okay, the state wants us to do that.
Yes.
There's a DP suggestion to do it, and most of the municipalities, they're already doing it. So there is a rationale.
But as far as the sewer is concerned, I don't.
Sewer, they're doing it, yeah.
But what's the rationale?
So if you take a simple example, how much a residential person can use, let's say, 1,000 gallons or 1,000,
Yeah, but what's the why would you have tiers?
because the higher, sewer user, that means that they are basically putting more strain on the system, on the sewer system. They're draining more.
That's
Their capacity, you have to make for their capacity, isn't it?
except of what I told you about the history. The plant is sized to take care of that. It doesn't put any stress on the system.
So
The only stress
Walmart-
it could
Walmart-
possibly put on
Walmart should pay the
would
same
be
rate.
on
as the-
undersized sewers.
Okay.
But whenever a company comes on and they want to go onto sewer, we check to make sure that the sewer is the right size. So if you were to have a subdivision and it were to be sewered, your engineer would have to,
Assessment,
and
yeah,
we
that's
would
right.
enlarge the sewer. Or you would enlarge the sewer to make up, so it doesn't, we never overload the sewer. As I told you, we're the only ones that never surcharge in the entire metropolitan district.
How about the commercial users, the commercial on the Route 1? Do they put more strain on our sewer system, or is it?
There's no strain, though.
Okay.
Who was the mayor then?
When?
Kevin White?
Kevin White, yes, he was.
Well, tell Kevin that Mr. Fasinello, his protege, is proposing 9.9 plus 7.5 on top of each other rate increases, which is 17.4% rate increase, which is just what you said. It's arbitrary, capricious, and it's illegal. You can't do it. You're gonna be sued.
Well, we're already getting sued, John. Did you get the
Well-
sheriff come to your house?
No.
No. How come?
So, Patrick, I mean, let's do the 3.6 and do Rick's flat rate and let Jim move along.
I'm not gonna vote for
I have a question.
Service fee.
This Article 7 is for water, Article 9 is for sewer. What is Article 8? Is it related to our fund, or?
No, it's the Article 6 and Article 8 are for the in-year budget adjustments. At this time, we think we're okay.
So is it related to water and sewer funds, or is it just something else?
So for those two, it's no action because that's the in-year budget adjustment on both water and sewer.
So it won't come for voting here?
It wouldn't come for this year, yes.
So board will not vote those articles?
It'll come from next fiscal year.
Okay.
Because there's no action.
I almost think I shouldn't vote on this sewer thing where I don't have sewer.
You always have voted on sewer.
I
right?
know,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering now if I really should be.
So to get you to vote it, we have to raise the septic rate?
Yeah, I haven't been pumped in 20-something years.
So I hate to put you folks
Well,
in a
no,
position, but I just,
that's-
could I just,
Why don't you just push this one that I gave you? That's my
That's what's
job.
gonna fly.
So, Mr. Director,
yes,
You're saying that people who use a little bit of water, they're in tier 1 and 2, okay, they're being, very careful about using their water, but you're going to give them, no matter how much they discharge into the sewer, this extra fee. And they're already paying a very high sewer bill. You're gonna make them, it's gonna be like a huge percentage of their bill.
Not on the sewer portion, it won't be.
Yeah,
No,
well, why won't it be? Because,
because the sewer rate is very high.
right,
So the,
because the rate's high,
because it's, exactly, because the $3 per bill charge
yeah, but
is a
what
total
percent,
of $12 a year.
that's a big percentage, isn't it?
No,
Compared to somebody who's using 10,000 cubic feet, they're gonna pay the $3, aren't they?
yes,
And how much percentage of that?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
okay, but you understand what I'm going to.
I do.
Yeah, no,
so, Mr. Commissioner,
yeah, what?
would you consider voting, all I'm looking for is a vote to vote favorable action for the sewer budget as proposed. It seems as though you and John explained.
Tell us what you're, give us, say
Okay,
it
so what
again.
I'm proposing is, so user fees, 4322273, which is a 7.5% increase.
Yeah,
Miscellaneous receipts, 467,500. Old capital projects, 299,956. And sewer retained earnings, 24,749,
and no service fee.
and no service fee.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay? Is that a motion?
You making a motion?
No, I said, was that a motion? Yeah,
Could you just repeat it again, Jim?
sure. So, user fees, 4322273.
4322.
273.
Yep.
273,
Miscellaneous receipts, 567,500.
okay.
Old capital projects, which include Morningside and portable generator, 299,956.
Okay.
And sewer retained earnings, 24,749.
All right. I'll go with that. So was there a motion, John? If not, I'll make the motion. If there was one, I'll second it.
Why don't you make the initial one?
I'll make the motion with Jim's numbers there.
No fee.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,
Opposed.
3-2.
Thank you. I know that was tough.
Jesus. Okay. Now we have the ARPA funds, and I guess that we have to wait for that
We'll
and
have to wait.
apply to the selectmen and
So,
But
Mr. Commissioner,
I'll-
yeah, so if you're okay with it, what we'll do is we'll develop a list before the select board meet. We'll present the list to the commission.
for prioritizing.
Yes, yes. We'll send you a draft and say, this is what we have. Please endorse it or change it. Give us the directive as to what you want there.
Thank you.
Jim, can we use some of that to pay off some of our outstanding bills and stuff?
Outstanding bills as to what?
Like Travis Farm or something?
No, we can't use it on debt.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just-
no, and I remember, that was one of the
That's
seminars.
restrictions.
Okay.
You can't use it on that, you can't use it on
Pay
OPEB,
that.
yeah.
Right, no
Okay.
pension.
No, I just wanted to know.
But John, we could have better internet in our meeting room down at the plant.
Okay, and the audit, Jim.
Yeah, so I provided the update. Rick's already listed that firm. And Rick, do we have an idea as to when they're gonna start there? They've already started, right?
What's that?
Pioneer Group?
Yes, Pioneer Group, a gentleman by the name of Doug Gardner. We've worked with Doug in the past, many, many years ago. He was actually recommended by, I believe, the auditor, the town's auditor. So he has already got the wheels in motion, gathering information. He has the budgets. He's currently reviewing those, and what he will do next is reach out to each and every department head, and sit down with them, whether it be via Zoom or in person, to gather input as to what specifically what duties they perform for sewer and water, and how much of their time is
How
spent
much is he
on it.
charging?
$9,500.
Okay, we can save the town that money, because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has a department set up exactly for this. And some towns have taken advantage of it. I think I sent it to some of the commissioners. All we need to do is notify them if we get 3 votes here, and we can have the Commonwealth do an in-depth audit directly on indirect costs only. And that will cost us 0.
As far as I know, the state's closed. Have you been to a state office building lately?
Yes, I have.
Most of them are shut down. I doubt you're gonna get anybody gonna jump on an audit right
So,
now.
I move that we have the
Couldn't we do
Commonwealth,
that? Do we do that in conjunction with this other outfit?
if, I'm not approving that, the,
Well, it sounds like they've already started.
Yeah, we'll have to pay for that. That's $9,000 we have to pay. I'm not approving that.
You asked for it. You guys asked for an audit.
Yeah.
You asked for an
Not
audit.
that kind. Well, we can get it for free.
Is this
Don't go there,
auditing?
Patrick. You guys asked for it. It was
Yeah.
clear,
Wait a second.
exactly what
See,
you
this
guys
is-
wanted.
this
You
is-
gave the directive to Jim.
Why didn't you recommend having the state do the audit?
Rick, you said you were gonna meet with every department head. Is this an audit for the whole town, or just for sewer and water?
No, for the
Audit.
indirect costs.
Indirect cost audit.
In other words, you don't have to talk to the police department.
He's gonna talk
You don't
to
have to,
Jim.
yeah, you're gonna talk anything that relates
Jody,
to.
Take our insurance
getting
budget,
water.
they're gonna take our OPEB
Gotcha.
actuarials, it's only gonna focus on the sewer and water indirect.
Indirect costs.
Because I've heard the concerns loud and clear from this commission, that you're concerned with the charges that are being assessed on there.
And as far as hiring somebody that's gonna bag the job and do what we want them to do, that's not gonna happen. I know that's your concern, even though you
What's
understand
that?
it. You think that we're gonna just go out and hire somebody that's gonna say what we want them to say.
No, I want you not to spend any money on an audit where we can get it for free.
I was unaware that it was free.
You don't know about this, what I'm
I
saying?
can certainly reach out, I actually have the South Hadley report, that's what I based our
Okay,
financial
that's-
policies
I
and
think I
procedures on.
sent it to you, didn't I?
I think you did. So we can reach out to the DOR and see if they'd be willing to, but I wanna kinda go 2 paths
Well, you
because.
can go 2 paths, you can, but
Are we committed
who's gonna pay for that?
Assessment.
Amount of indirect costs.
9,000 is a reasonable amount for a budget, $11.5 million budget. Have an audit.
So we're gonna.
Okay, so we're gonna do the state audit?
I will reach
And
out to them.
I'll reach out. You don't have to
Other than
worry
that,
yourself
I would say
about
it's
that.
extending the sewer
I can do that for you.
I like the idea of potentially.
We all set with the meter, the cash
Business,
report?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already spoke about it, you know, the meter cache. I think I'll work with Mary to basically fix this spreadsheet
Yeah.
or move it around. The columns
Yeah.
needs to be arranged, and we need to understand, you know, how it can be improved. So Mary, I'll, if you have soft copy, I can
Potentially. there's
give you
be some
back
commercial
with my comments.
And I have an updated one that I finished up this afternoon, Pradeep, that I'll give to you, that brings all the fiscal year 23 billing under 30 days lag time.
Yeah, don't use that.
I know we look at it differently.
Yeah,
Um,
so just give
Can
me.
I also just make one addition? You had mentioned that the last billing went out February 22nd.
No, the last bill went out in March, okay.
Push water.
But that was, the meter read was 2/11.
Okay.
So that means that we have not billed any customer after 2/11, which is February 11th.
Okay. So those bills went out March 8th, with the end time.
March 8th is cycle 20 and cycle 24, which is basically
I need a motion in a second.
Sefton's Holler and something else. There's no
So I
March
have
8th.
one, cycle 10, 12, and 13, which had an end date of January, it was usage from October 22nd through January 25th. The bill date was March 9th. There was 3 cycles that went out March
I think
9th.
whatever happened.
what was the usage end date?
End date was January 27th.
Yeah, so I took the, not January 22nd, I took the February 11th as the last meter reading date.
Okay, so you're using the end dates, not
Yeah,
buildings.
so after February 11th, we didn't bill anyone.
February 11th, that bill went out March 18th.
Yeah, so
So bills did go out after, but, okay.
that is true, but the last
I just wanted to make sure that we were reading it the same way.
Okay, Billy,
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.